Tommy, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers here and maybe how they fare inside this AFC North division. I know you are a Steelers fan. Obviously, the departure of Ben Roethlisberger is a thing that, they've tried to prepare for in a sense. They've had a multitude of different quarterbacks that they've had in. Unfortunately, the tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins, who could have been in the mix this offseason. They go out and they sign Dwayne Haskins. They go out and they sign Mitch Trubisky to compete alongside Dwayne Haskins initially. But now it seems like Mitch Trubisky will be the guy here for this Pittsburgh Steelers team going into 2022. And it's really a 2-year deal, but they have a chance to get out of it after one. Do you feel like Mitch Trubisky can give the Pittsburgh Steelers an opportunity to compete inside this division when you factor in you lose Juju Smith-Schuster? You do have Deontay Johnson still. You have Chase Claypool. You have Pat Freiermuth, who everyone's loving. And then you have Najee Harris. But for the Steelers, quarterback was the one position they had a question at, and it's just the offensive line. Can they find a way to get the run game going consistently? Can they protect whoever's under center? These are the biggest questions I have for this Pittsburgh Steelers team as to whether or not maybe they can compete. And if they can do these things, Tommy, I believe they can compete because of the defense that they do have with Minkah Fitzpatrick, with TJ Watt, with Cam Hayward. And I think that they can find some solidarity there. And obviously they had some rotational guys with Alex Highsmith last season as well. Pittsburgh's not too far off. And look, it's going to also be a big year for Devin Bush as well. They're going to have some, it's a make or break season for him.
Yeah, to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's an interesting one because obviously I want to be all positive and optimistic, but you've got to be realistic about a lot of these things. I think the Steelers probably have the hardest path to try to win this division, most likely, because you're lacking the thing you need in the NFL, which is a top tier quarterback. Every other team in this division has it. You got Deshaun Watson on the Cleveland Browns, you got Lamar Jackson on the Ravens, and you have Joe Burrow on the Bengals. All of these guys are top tiers at their position. And then you have Mitch Trubisky. There is a significant tier drop, even if Trubisky plays well, which I think he can. And if he does, a lot of us are going to owe him apologies. Hey, look, okay, it wasn't you in Chicago. It was more Matt Nagy than anything else. And maybe he learned a lot when he was playing with Josh Allen and getting coached from Brian Dable. Maybe this helped turn things around for him. I hope it does. I think Trubisky deserved that second shot that he got this year, similar to Marcus Mariota. I think Mariota deserved to get another shot as a starting quarterback. So I think Trubisky's in the same camp. The offensive line, they did address a little bit this offseason. I think they did a pretty good job, actually, bringing James Daniels from Chicago. You bring in Mason Cole, so you kind of shore up that guard and center. I think, honestly, in the first and the NFL draft, tackle is going to be probably the priority if the Steelers don't go with a quarterback. If you can get someone like a Trevor Penning to fall to them at, I believe pick 20 they have, that would be the dream scenario because that would really help shore up this team because left tackle is still a massive need on this offense. And it's going to help, honestly, at that point. That just helps Najee Harris. Last year, Najee Harris averaged 3.9 yards per carry. 2.97 of those yards were coming after contact.
Yeah.
That's how struggle those yards were and how good he was of picking those up. The offensive line did him no favors last year because you would consistently see him getting hit behind the line of scrimmage and somehow he gets a positive gain out of that. You now help him out with the line of scrimmage and potentially giving him, additional yard and a half before contact. Then you start adding that into it. That 3.9 turns closer to a 4.5, 4.8 for someone who led the NFL in touches. That would be a significant difference over 16 or 17 games, however many games he plays next year. That would be a massive improvement. Receivers going to be the question. You have Deontay Johnson, who is that number one target volume kind of guy. But does that change this year? Because any drop in target volume for him is going to be noticeable because he's not a guy who gets a ton after the catch. Ben Roethlisberger loved to pepper him with targets, but that was because Ben was getting the ball out at the quickest of the NFL last year and also with the second lowest ADOT, or in terms of intended air yards, I should say. He was working in Ben Roethlisberger's window. Same for Najee Harris, same for Pat Freiermuth. If Mitch Trubisky gets a 10 bit more aggressive, that actually might be a good thing for some of these guys. The efficiency might go up even if some of the targets go down. Claypool needs to develop and become a more well-rounded route runner. He's still very much a vertical style guy. He needs to learn some of these other routes, but I think he's got the capability to do so. And then Pat Freiermuth is Heath Miller 2.0. He's everything the Pittsburgh Steelers fans wanted him to be when they drafted him last year. And I think you've got to give the Steelers a fighting chance with the defense that they have. Yeah. The amount of pressure that they can bring with Cam Hayward or TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith played really well. Devin Bush, I can talk about. This is a massive year for him. He's got to show up because this is one of the rare times the Pittsburgh Steelers traded up in the draft. I believe it was with the Denver Broncos that year. They traded up to select Devin Bush. I loved it. I'm a Michigan fan. He goes to the Steelers. It was perfect. but he's got to do something. And also, I think Minka Fitzpatrick, a lot of pressure is going to be on him on the secondary side of the ball to try to be that ball hawk that he always has been. I think, like I said, the margin of error is not great offensively. If they put their defense in trouble, they're going to have a hard time trying to keep up with some of these teams, because then you can let the defense really just kind of eat and play attacking style football rather than have to say, hey, look, we got to play more prevent. We can't let these guys score points. The pressure is going to be on the offense to pull it off. Can Trubisky do it? We'll see. I think that 500 record is very much going to be in jeopardy this year for Mike Tomlin, but it's a team that's in transition. I think everyone knows that right now.
I think that's a fair point to make. And hey, could Baker Mayfield possibly make his way to Pittsburgh after the 2022 NFL season? I know he'd probably love nothing more than that. Seems like a Mike Tomlin type of guy as well.